Each of the A-level business exam boards are slightly different in terms of the structure, the length of the questions that they're asking, but one thing they all share in common is the exam skills that they are looking for. In this video, we're going to try and take a look at the exam skill of application. He is absolutely crucial, by the way, to show in your exams, regardless of which exam board you are studying. So stay tuned as we give you our top 3 tips for wowing examiners with your application. So tip number 1 is to make sure that you apply consistently throughout your exam answers. Some students feel that if they've applied their answer once, maybe at the beginning of an answer, that will see them through all the way to the end. That's really not the case. Examiners are looking for your answers to be consistently applied. If we're answering a long evaluative question, some of our questions in our exams can be as long as 25 marks. One little bit of application in the first sentence is not going to keep an examiner happy all the way through that essay. So for tip number 1, we want to try and be applying our work periodically throughout the answer. Really, we want every single paragraph that we write or every single point that we make to be applied to the context of the organization that's in the case study. Tip number 2 is a red hot tip. Students often apply their answers by using quotes or taking lines of information from the case study, and that's fine, that's great. Okay, you're applying your answers to the circumstances and the specific nature of the business in the case study. That's brilliant. But red hot tip this, try and use data as a source of application as well. Examiners will love it. Often when we're reading case studies and source materials, there will be bits of data, maybe financial information, HR data, marketing data, ops data, scattered throughout that case study that we might just be able to sink our teeth into and use as a source of application for our answers. Some case studies are quite long, and at the bottom of them, they even have some separate appendices with some tables in that are purely based on numeric data. Criminally, often students don't even read these tables. They think that once they've read the basic case study, they've got a gist for the industry the organisation is in. It's time for them to get the pen warmed up and get raring on their answers. Missing out those data appendices is an absolute travesty. They can be the richest source of application for your exam answers. If you're talking about the organisation's gearing ratio, it's got to be applied to that business. If you're talking about that business's labour turnover, it can only be applied to that organisation. If you're mentioning the capacity utilisation of the firm in the case study, how could your answer not be applied? So tip number 2, if there's data on offer, gather it in, use it in your answers. Trust me, that is the richest source of application that you can use. Tip number 3, when we're reading business studies case studies, when we're making our way through the source material that we might be provided for some of our questions, see if you can get a sense for the objectives of the organisation. Application is literally the skill of making your advice and your recommendations pertinent and specific to the business in the case study. Not all businesses should be given the same advice. They've all got their unique set of circumstances. Imagine when we're talking about general life and we're trying to give somebody advice on running a marathon. You wouldn't give me exactly the same advice as you would give to Mo Farah. You'd probably want to give me advice about taking a defibrillator out there in case we need it. You'd want to give Mo Farah more technical advice to do with hydration during the final 6-10 miles. Businesses are the same. They have their own unique set of circumstances. Advice needs to be unique to them. But if you can get a sense of the objectives of that organisation, it helps you tailor your recommendations accordingly. If you get a sense for what this business is up against, the situation it's in, the targets it's set itself, what it wants to try and achieve, then you can try and make your advice sensitive to those objectives. If an organisation is clearly targeting growth, you can try and reflect that in the advice that you offer. If an organisation is clearly targeting survival, you might offer different advice. If an organisation is focused on retrenchment, different advice. Cost minimisation, different advice. Exclusivity and quality, different advice. Try and pick up what type of organisation we've got on our hands here and what their targets are. Helps you tailor your advice accordingly. Now, what kind of YouTube channel would we be if we didn't send you away with a little bit of bonus advice? Bonus advice. Try and get some application in your conclusions if you can as well. So hopefully we're showing evaluation periodically throughout our longer answers. But if we are answering those questions that do require evaluation and judgment, we've probably got a conclusion on the go. And conclusions are also a paragraph that we want to try and get a bit of application going in if we can. Students so often really focus on applying those earlier points of their work. And when they get onto the judgment, they get onto the conclusion, they're sending out their verdicts at the end there, application seems to disappear out the window. So your bonus tip, try and make your overall verdict, your overall judgment related to the needs of the organisation. Try and reflect what you've learned from the source material and the case studies in that conclusion as well. So you're showing the examiner the skills that they want to see all the way to the end of your answer. So there we go. There's our top 3 tips for showing application in answers. We've thrown a bonus bad boy in there as well. Application is a crucial skill, so get some practice questions done before you sit your exams. We'll see you soon for some more Taking the Biz exam skills tutorials.